Miami, the market's on fire. To buy, to sell, to hold takes you higher. With Zalewski and Hernandez, you know the sound. Ya tú sabes.
Happy Friday, Miami. This is Buy, Sell, Hold Miami, a real estate podcast. I'm Peter Zalewski, condo consultant, expert witness, founder of the Miami Condo Investing Club, joined here by my partner, my co-host, the moderator, Daniel Hernandez from Compass Real Estate in Coconut Grove. He does single-family houses as well as condos. Daniel, Jackson Hole, Wyoming Day.
Jackson Hole, Wyoming. What's going on in Jackson's Hole? Peter, wrong podcast.
Three things happen in Jackson Hole. One, you got the Grand Tetons. Translate that into French, from French into English, and you'll be surprised. Number two, you got Yellowstone. But number three is the reason we're talking about Jackson Hole. Old man Warsh, Kevin Warsh, brand new chairman of the Federal Reserve, gave his first speech at Jackson Hole, where all the international bankers around the world, they all huddle in this fat cat area, which I've been to. If you like fly fishing, great place. Came out and he said he's got to deal with inflation, which means interest rates have to go up, which is housing goes down, Daniel.
So that's interesting because I'm pretty sure that who's that guy who lives up there on Pennsylvania Avenue? I'm pretty sure the guy that put him there wanted interest rates to go down. Yeah, what's his name? The Donald, right?
Donald Trump, as we know, interest rates go up, housing goes down, everybody. And with Kevin Warsh's speech, and this is the most influential speech of the year the Federal Reserve Chairman will give. Used to be Jerome Powell, old man Powell, but he got pushed out because he would not cut interest rates. Kevin Warsh comes out swinging, and he says he's probably got to raise rates. That's not what Donald Trump wants to hear. That's not what anybody in real estate wants to hear.
That wasn't on the bingo card for the midterm elections, was it?
It was not on the bingo card, but the projections, the anticipation of interest rates going up, a Federal Reserve hike next month in September, 50-50. Many people were saying we were going to get cut. Now it's flipped the other way. We got the 10-year Treasury, which everything's based on, coming in at somewhere in the vicinity of 4.75. It's going to 5, Daniel, and you had 3 points for a mortgage rate.
Potato, tomato. Everybody buys cash here in Miami anyway, Peter. At least that's what they'll tell you, right?
Well, that's what they say.
Peter, I got a surprise for you today. I don't know if you saw it on our shared calendar. Peter, you don't do that email thing, right? You're like Bill Clinton. You don't send your own emails. Well, we got a guest.
I'm nothing like Bill Clinton.
Yeah, you're much more handsome. Much more handsome than Bill. So Pete, this gentleman I'm about to bring on, he's been on the shared calendar for 2 months now. He was supposed to come on before Memorial Day, and he's just been so busy. This guy, he's a Brazilian architect turned brand creative strategist. I don't know if that's exactly the title that he prefers, but I'll let him tell you yourself. Enrique Dressen, he's the founder and CEO of Elephant Skin. And he says the world is full of dogs. You got to be more like an elephant. So in a competitive market with all these condos going up, you need to hire a guy like him to make sure that your thing actually sells. Either that or you got to pay a vig to a hospitality brand like the Four Seasons or the St. Regis. Why not just pay Mr. Dressen and he can come up with an original idea for you so you can market your thing. So I'm going to bring him on right now and he can tell everybody about, well, who he is, and then we're going to get into the show because he's going to buy, sell, hold with us, Pete. Enrique.
Love it.
Henrique. He's so worldly, I can't even pronounce his name right. What's going on, pal?
Hello, guys. How are you? Glad to be here. Thanks for having me. And it's Enrique, whatever you guys
What
want.
does your wife
As
call
long
you
as
when you're in
easy.
trouble?
Man, like it's come here now.
So
But yeah,
Enrique,
man,
give us a little background. Give everybody a little bit of background on how,
sure.
well, not how you got on the pod, but how you got this interesting job that I just kind of talked about. But it seems like nobody else in the world that I know can actually make a living on advising developers on what they should or should not build.
So, man, it's an interesting story. I kind of like started when I was young, doing advertising. I started the graduation, I didn't go through, and then I stopped it. I changed it to architecture, and I always liked the advertising area. But then during my architecture graduation, I started to work with some developers, and I started to like it, the development side. So long story short, imagine that I kind of like I put everything together, like the advertising part, but dedicated to projects with the knowledge in architecture. And then it came up Elephant Skin, like we're basically that. We're an advertising agency, kind of like a consulting company dedicated only to real estate developers. And we started in 2017, end of 2017, beginning of 2018. Was only me, with a vision. I changed sides. I was in the development side, and I thought it would be more helpful working with the developers, and that was happened. Like I changed sides. It was just me. Today we are more than 100 people spread in different
Wow.
locations. We have operations in US, Canada, Dubai, Vietnam, Lisbon now, and basically everybody wants the same thing: how we sell. That's kind
How
of
do you
like what
sell?
unites the world. Yeah.
Do
And here we
I'll tell
are.
you, Enrique. Enrique, I'll tell you, you cut interest rates. We're going the wrong way.
True, true.
so Enrique, and then everybody who's just joining us for the first time today, have you ever seen the show before? Did anybody make you watch the show, or are you coming in totally green?
No, I watched some of the episodes to understand where I was stepping in, like to understand like what was happening here before I just jump in out of the blue.
And you still agreed to show up. God bless you. Um, so anybody just joining us for the first time today, you included, this is Buy, Sell, Hold. And on the bottom left of your screen, if you're looking at us on mobile, right there in the middle, that's what we call a rundown, Enrique. And so week after week, Peter and I throw these stories together. And I want full disclosure that I sent Enrique these topics yesterday. So he could have looked at them, he could have not. We're not going to be too mean to him. We're going to ease into it today. And at the end of each topic, we're either going to buy because we agree, we sell because we disagree, or we hold because we don't know. And you can not know. You can say, I don't know. Sit back. You're an adult and just watch and eat some popcorn. So with that, Enrique, here in Miami, we got branded condos. I think it started with Desert and the Trump, and then he did the Porsche, and now we got Armani Casa, we got a Frida Kahlo, we got Mercedes, or maybe we don't have Mercedes, but there are just so many brands coming in. I think we're second to only Dubai in the sheer number of branded condo deals coming into town, and you hold developers' hands from the very beginning, as I understand this.
Yep.
Is the branded condo thing, is are we just going through a phase, or are we in the very early innings of that? And that's why we're still in the first inning of brand partnerships for condos is the first topic.
I think there's a misconception, like about what the brand would do with the project. So I like the branded niche. I think that's really interesting. But if you work with services, if you work with something that adds something with the brand, to put a brand just like as you are putting the logo in the building, that doesn't make much sense, and you're gonna pay like high prices at the end. Like there's a gap. We need to remember that when we develop the project, it takes like 2, 3, 4, 5 years to develop that. The brand should be the one helping you throughout those years to kind of like engaging the buyers, doing the concierge services, offering you what you're going to expect at the end. That's what the brand should do. And then when you jump in, and that it makes sense to pay like a 15, 20, 30% more because you are getting like the service, you are getting something that the brand going to give to you. But if I'm paying more just to live at Mercedes-Benz, for example, I'm probably gonna have some complaints where and I'm saying here like I don't know if they're gonna have this kind of like search, but like I think the brands needs to be more like a help during the phases of the project and needs to offer something, and that's why you are bringing them inside your project, and not just because like there's a logo and I'm not creative enough or like I'm lazy to come there and create like a strategy or create a project or create something that are going to connect with people. The gap that we saw in the market, that's why we started Elephant Skin, was because like the developers, they are really good doing spreadsheets and understanding like how they compare the markets, but they are not good connecting with people, like really like speaking with them, like understanding what they want, what they don't want, and be honest, like and brand and marketing, it's not supposed to be something that sells. It's supposed to be something that makes people paying attention. And I put you sit in front of the developer, and nobody's gonna sell better than him. That's our goal, and the brands should do that. Like increase the value that you have on the project, the services, and help you with that, and not just like hey, I'm doing here because like yeah, I didn't have time to think about the names or think about color palette or think about the branding or how I should use, so I'm going to use someone and I'm going to put there like a car logo in the place. That's what I believe, the branded. And I think it's fine. It's the first phase of the brand. People are still learning. Even the hotel brands that they have the services on the hotels, they're still learning how to deal with the residentials, and that's fine. But I think if it doesn't change for the second phase, I think people gonna stop doing that and try to do another thing, because you need to have returns on that, like and the returns, you need to remember, we don't develop like for next year. We develop for the people like in 5, 6, or 4 years. That's what I think.
Pete, we've seen now, I think just last week, the branded Four Seasons in Surfside has broken its own record yet again. They're well over $7,000 a square foot resale for a Four Seasons branded condo. We've looked at the data that hospitality branded, and you pointed it out, Enrique, that the hospitality guys, since they're already in the hospitality industry, they sort of already know how to do it. They know how to deal with people. Yep. What the hell how many customers does Aston Martin actually deal with every year? There's probably more units in the Aston Martin condo tower than cars than they sold in the last couple of years. How many Aston Martins get sold in a year? So like Armani Casa, and I'm not saying anything bad about Armani Casa, but like the actual ability to deal with people. They are customer service brands, and I think that's why we've seen success in the hospitality side.
Agree.
But how much more room is there for this to grow? Or I guess how many straws can we grasp at? We've seen cars. We see Dolce and Gabbana, which is a perfumery, I guess. We see the likeness of cultural icons like Frida Kahlo. Peter and I have talked about like maybe like an HVAC company, and then they could advertise that they're the coldest building in all of Miami. Peter, what were some of the other ideas we were throwing out there? A Coca-Cola building? It's got great brand recognition.
There's so much to get here, Enrique. Enrique, I want you to point me in the right direction. I'm going to tell you what I think, and I'm not saying I know it all, but let me tell you what I think. I think the only reason you use a brand is you got no name brand recognition. You got no street cred. Nobody knows who the hell you are, and this is a way to kind of get on the board. I would point out maybe it'd be the Mercedes-Benz project. Maybe it would be the new Breitling project named after the watch, and I don't even know if I'm saying it right. If you go back in the day, the first person to put it on the board was a guy called Michael Deser, Old Man Deser, and his kid, Gil Deser. They brought in Donald Trump because he was doing the Apprentice show. This is before he was thinking about building ballrooms and stuff. And nobody knew who the hell the Desers were. They came down here. They started trying to peddle condos. They had to bring in the Trump brand in order to sell this stuff. So to me, you only bring in got no street cred. That's why you bring in a brand. And then when you do bring in the brand, what are you facing? You're facing the possibility that this licensing agreement could go BK in the United States. A bankruptcy judge could sign his name on it or her name, and the thing disappears, just like we saw with the Canyon Ranch over on 69th and Collins.
The SLS in South Miami Avenue.
I don't know if they went BK, but I know there were some issues
they didn't go
with
BK,
but
they had the license. It's called DUA now, by the way.
DUA. That's what it is. So to me, Enrique, the only reason a developer gets a brand involved now the hotel's a little bit different, hotel brand. But the only reason a developer gets a brand involved is they got no street cred. They have not built up a following here where they're going to be able to sell it. Now they might be great somewhere else, But you come to South Florida, you come to Miami, it's probably not going to fly. And the reference was made Dubai and Miami. Miami's number 2, I guess, with brands. What do they have in common? Vanity, 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 vanity. Condos are
Sunshine,
commodities.
easy to do business, OnlyFans.
Condos are commodities. They are rebar, they are cement, they are glass. They trade like commodities. They're no different than oil. They're no different than pork bellies, no different than salty snacks. And Daniel, I got a new one. No different than tokens for AI services. It's a commodity. You got to add some value to it. You charge 20% more for a brand. You pay the brand 10%. They come in, they kiss some babies, they shake some hands, which, by the way, that's what Donald Trump did with all his projects in Sunny Isles Beach. And at the end of the day, they disappear. You fall out of line with them. They cancel the license agreement. Next thing you know, you lost 20% of your equity, just like Canyon Ranch did once the bankruptcy judge signed that name. And the Canyon Ranch, which is a brand for holistic living in New York and Arizona, it reverts back to the Carillon, and nobody knows what the hell it is anymore. So that's my understanding, but I'm probably looking at it from the bear side. So maybe you could give me a little bit more details.
No, the thing is like that's why when you put everything in the same basket, you mentioned. I'm not saying about the hospitality. Everything is branded today. Like you call branded.
Yes.
But like even you mentioned Desert. I don't know him personally, but if I know, like I remember that he's a huge fan of cars. Like he's a collector, I think. So now
Yes.
he became like curator. But who knows if not he just did the project because like he's a fan and it was part of his vision and he did the project. And that time was not branded. And that time was like a beauty with a vision, with a name, and that was a positioning. At that time, he did a positioning with the Porsche Tower or with the bit, but now became a thing, and that's where the problem starts to happen. Like that's where I have a I have a cousin that if he hears me saying that he's gonna laugh. But when they start the crypto thing, like I went to him and then I told him like, hey, I bought some crypto, and he looked at me and said like, that's where the problem starts to happen when people like you start to buy this type of stuff because I didn't know shit, like I was not my thing. And that I think is the same thing with the developers. They use that, and when this starts to become a simple thing without the storytelling around, do not without know how to do it and why you are doing, that's where we start to have a problem. You have like a licensing that is revoked and then you need to change and then it's not a plan, or you sign a brand, the brand doesn't give you like what they need to do, and then you start to get pissed with the brand because the brand is just like waiting, they release the name and then they get out. But it's different. Like if you put branded in the same package as hotels, or for example, you have like the well, that it's doing, there is a meaning behind that. They have wellness, they have the amenities, they are bringing a brand to offer this. It's kind of like if you open a store. I need Four Seasons. Why they're selling? Because people want to live in Four Seasons. It's simple. Like what hits is selling because people want to live in hits. I don't want to live inside
However, 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 I got to interrupt you here. What I've been told about all these hotel brands, the hotel company's not running it. What happens is they train the in-house personnel to do things the way they do it. But the hotel company's not running it. It's not like wherever Hyatt or Four Seasons is based. They don't have their employees there. They're simply educating their training.
No,
So
that
it's
would be
almost like
very
a
expensive.
franchise.
But
But it's
I
almost
think,
like a
but I think
franchise.
yes, but I think that's part of the process. Even the hotels, and that's per opinion. We are doing some projects and we are helping them to structure. Even them, they are starting to understand how much they need. What's the team that they need to run the resident? Like how many residentials you have ready right now? Like we have Aston Martin. It's one of the first projects that was ready like after the whole branded thing. So people, especially the hotels, I believe they are still understanding, what's the process, what happens. But that's the thing. They are not developers. They are operating projects. So they forget, again, the process between when you launch, before, like pre-launch, launch, process, and then after you enter. They are really good after you deliver the projects. And that's, I believe, what is the expectation, for example, for Seasons and this kind of like projects. And, but like, I think Four Seasons is doing a good job. That the brand is out there. They're kind of like delivering what they are preaching. So, but again, I think they need to understand more the development process, and that's where we normally jump in to kind of like we're not promising sales or not promising anything, but we're promising that hey, We're going to hold hands here, and we need to review the contracts of the brands. We need to understand if it makes sense or not. We need to understand what's going to happen on the process during the launch. We need to understand if it makes sense to do like a multi-million-dollar event, or it makes sense to use the brand throughout. So these kind of things, I think it's what's missing. And I think the developer, when they jump in that area, they kind of like became a hostage of like, hey, let's see what's going to happen. And what happens, they bring like the brokers. The brokers are not trained by the hotel, so they don't know how to sell these. They don't have the expertise.
Right. So it's actually doing damage to the brand, because you're bringing people that know nothing about the brand.
It's a mess. It's a mess. It's kind of like people doing whatever. You know, like you have a guy that want to sell without like if he just want to sell, you have the hotel brand or the brand that kind of like it doesn't give you like a playbook on how to use it, the brand, or what's they can expect. And you have the developer kind of sitting there and say like, I need a guy to sell for me. I need the brand because now I have attached to the brand. What should I do? And I believe all these things needs to start since the beginning. You know, like we need to coordinate all those pieces since the beginning and make them work side by side. You know, the speech, the storytelling, and everything that's happening needs to walk side by side. But my opinion is like a brand per brand is regular brand. It's not branded residence. You know, like it's a project with a name. It could be
right,
whatever.
They're just
but
paying
hotels is different.
We got to move on to the next.
Enrique, well, if I could just ask one question. Enrique, let me ask you a question, a big picture. So 1990s, a lot of companies going to China. In order to build stuff in China, you got to go 51-49. You got to share how you make it. And China says, yeah, we'll do it. We'll put it up, not a problem. They get the R&D, they learn how to do it, and they start competing. Our developers who are using brands basically running themselves out of business. Some of them don't care. Many
builders and operators. He just said it.
Yeah, but why can't brands, once they go through the process of the training wheels, getting paid to lend their name to it, why can't they simply go and do it on their own? Why the hell do they need some developer who's doing a one-off? It doesn't make any sense to me. People going into China.
Normally they are doing the opposite. Like the brands want to sell the assets. They want to. It's easier to keep operating. You know, instead of the process of development. Forget. You know, people see the building is ready, but they forget. Like I tend to say to developers, like, hey, don't worry about us. We're not the last cookie in the package. You know, like we know our place. You have the approvals, you have the lenders, you have the process, you have the architects, you have everything. So the whole process to do that and develop, it's the opposite. The operators, they want to do the opposite. They just want to go. It's an easy task if you think. You go there, you plug your brand, you let them do it, and that's it. You know, instead of like having the whole trouble to have the assets. Most of the companies are selling the assets, not keeping the assets to the ones that still have.
But if you're selling a condo, you're in and you're out. You sign a long-term agreement, so you do the property management. You're collecting cash, and somebody else has sort of got the risk.
You're not really out because that you got to deal with the HOAs that are such a dream to deal with, as we know.
And you have the time to do all of that, like the timing that you have, for cash flow, for the amount of years that you have, and the liability. Honestly, like if I'm a brand, I would prefer be a brand, you know, with all the operations, but like kind of like delivering the operation, delivering the process, delivering the playbook, kind of like a plug and play. And I let the developer like do what I need to do, and I'm go there and just keeping the second part, you know, like for the project.
I gotta move us along. I gotta move us along.
Sorry, but last point. But many of these brands are publicly traded, and if you're publicly traded, you constantly got to expand your ability to raise cash. How better to raise cash than to move into this component? So that's just my final thought. Sorry.
Buy, sell, hold, Enrique. We're in the first inning of branded condo partnerships.
Nah, I buy, but with some adjustments.
He's buying.
I buy.
He's buying. No surprise there. Mr. Zalewski.
Well, Gil Deser and his father, Michael Deser, they got down here in 2000 or so, Old Man Deser, maybe even before that, probably before that. So I would say pound the table, sell, punch somebody in the mouth. I'm so confident this thing is way past its run that I got to go the complete opposite way. And I'm talking about Miami only, though.
Miami only. I'm holding only because you said something interesting, Peter. I don't think that they're pushing out the developers. I actually think that they're pushing out the likes of First Service Residential, who have been taking $1.50 a foot for eons from these homeowners and delivering 50 cents worth of product. Now these hospitality brands are coming in here. They're getting $2.50 a foot for HOA, but they might actually be delivering a half-assed product. And that's all I'll say about that. This parlays straight into the next topic, though. Building is easier in Miami versus the rest of the world. And